Welcome back to the channel. I'm Chase and this is All Things Random. Today we are looking at another MMI watch, and today we're looking specifically at the MMI Turret Chronograph. Now, this watch is on loan directly from MMI Watches, and it has to go back almost immediately. Really hard to see it go because this is really a good watch. Let's just flip the camera around and get right into the review. Now, the MMI Turret Chronograph is on Kickstarter right now. They're already fully funded. I will leave a link down below, but you have 6 more days left to sign up and get this for the earlier bird special, or however Kickstarter works. I've never really bought a watch off Kickstarter, but I know a lot of people go to Kickstarter, they fund campaigns because they get a downright better deal than just buying it straight after everything's already been pushed out to retailers. Now, today we are talking about this beautiful chronograph. Now, the one thing that you guys may notice is down at the 6 o'clock position, you see the sub-seconds is ticking away. However, you did notice that when this was going, it was ticking a lot more smoothly. That's because inside this is the Seiko VK67 Mega Quartz movement. And if you guys are a fan of my channel, then you know that I love the Mega Quartz movement. It gives you all the feeling of an automatic chronograph without the hassle of making sure that it's either hand wound if it's a manual wind, or it's continually worn if it's an automatic, especially when it has a date complication like right there peeking out just underneath that 26. That means the 26th day, just above the 10 o'clock position. Now, overall, this is an absolute beautiful watch, and it seems bigger than what it is. In fact, in your hand, it feels a little chunkier than actually what it is. And in fact, it feels thicker than what it actually is as well. It's funny because this watch is extremely deceptive because it's extremely wearable. Now, real quick, let's just go over the case, the dimensions, then we'll talk about the dial, then we'll talk about the movement inside, and then we'll talk about whether or not this is worth getting. So the case itself is a 316L stainless steel, industrial standard, of course, has brushing on the side, chamfered edges right there. Really nice to see those high polished edges just absolutely pop in the light. It does have a nice bezel. The bezel is an ion plated DLC, stainless steel coated, 120 click unidirectional bezel. Very nice. This thing seems thick because it does have a nicely domed sapphire crystal with 10 layers of anti-reflective coating on the underside. Now, a lot of people get this confused. A lot of people are like, well, Chase, why wouldn't you want anti-reflective coating on both sides? For example, my Aventi A11-01 SE, my special edition Producer Michael all sapphire watch, has 7 layers of anti-reflective coating on the inside, 7 layers of anti-reflective coating on the outside. You would think, well, dang, Chase, that's awesome. But If you guys have ever watched any of Adrian's videos on Bark and Jack, he explains that I believe he bought an Omega and it has anti-reflective coating on the outside. And as he wears the watch a lot, or as he wore the watch a lot, the anti-reflective coating would be sort of knocked away and he could never get the crystal truly clean. Even though it's a sapphire crystal, basically scratch resistant. The only thing harder than sapphire crystal is going to be a diamond. However, these do shatter. They don't scratch. That being said, with anti-reflective coating on the outside, you can scratch the anti-reflective coating and it looks like the dial scratched, which is super irritating for a lot of watch lovers. Is that nitpicky? Yes, it is. But this only has it on the underside, 10 layers. Awesome to see that. It actually works quite well. Really love that red dial. We'll get back to that in just a second. Now, like I was saying before, when it comes to the case size, this case size is 40 millimeters in diameter, so it's gonna fit every wrist size from small to large. 40 millimeters to me is just that perfect sweet spot for every wrist. It does have a lug to lug, which is the footprint of the watch, of only 47 millimeters. So though it is a 40 millimeter watch, a lot of 40 millimeter watches have footprints of about 49 to 50 millimeters, which means they sit quite large on the wrist. This, not the case. This actually sits quite nicely and the bracelet falls nice along your wrist. You can see right here, the end links are recessed end links, which means basically the center link is not locked, which means it actually fits even better to the wrist. So if you have a smaller size wrist, it's gonna fit quite well. It's not gonna feel overly large. Fully stainless steel bracelet, as you'd expect. It does have solid end links and it does have quick release spring bars right there on the inside. It does have a nice milled clasp. Safety lock. Overall, I think everything is great. The bracelet on this is 22 millimeters. So you're gonna be able to find any replacement strap or another bracelet or whatever else you want for this watch. It's gonna be easy to find. 22 millimeters is almost as popular as 20 millimeters, which is on every single watch. Now let's quickly talk about the dial on this watch. It is a beautiful deep red. In fact, it is extremely hard to actually photograph the red on this watch. It is just absolutely gorgeous. Now this is a sandwich dial, which means you can see that it is layered. It's beautifully layered. You can see the subdials right there at the 12, the 6, and the 9 are slightly recessed due to that sandwich dial. And you can see the date ring around the outside, they call this the rotodate, is also recessed. And you can see right there, the date function is actually right there. Normally it'd be like a date window, but instead they did the date along the outside. I think it's quite nice. Normally this would be like the chapter ring. However, it is the roto wheel instead. You see the Turret hybrid chronograph right there at the 3 o'clock where normally a date position would be. Nice applied indices. And from what I hear, this Lume is supposed to be amazing. Now, what do I mean by amazing? I mean, they say they used Swiss Superluminova grade X1C3. Very specific with the lume they used. We're gonna test that out in just a few minutes. Now, real quick, as I was doing some micro shots on this, I thought the dial was dirty and I was super depressed and I was like, what are all these little tiny specks in there? And then I did a deep dive into their Kickstarter page, and that's because this is eggshell textured, which just gives it even more depth. Once I found that out, I was like, wow, the little detail. This watch is a retro vintage inspired from the 40s to the 90s into classic modern day watch wearing. Honestly, I think the watch is just absolutely beautiful. I think they did a really, really good job. 100 meters of water resistance, so you can wear it in everyday life. And again, that nicely domed sapphire crystal, I think is just beautiful for especially a retro sort of inspired watch. A lot of watches back in the day used domed hesselite or domed acrylic, so it's really nice to see that in a sapphire. Now, it does have these nice pushers and a signed MMI right there on the crown. Really nice crown guards right here. It is almost exactly like the original Turret when it comes to the case, except it is a chronograph. Now the chronograph functions as it should. Click it once and that mecha quartz starts ticking. Click it again, it stops, and it does reset. Now the bezel is very nice. I do have gloves on because I have ugly hands, but I can grip the coin edge just nicely with this, no big deal, no play at all. Honestly, overall, I think they did a really good job with this watch. Now let's just go through and let's do some functionality testing. You can see how the date works, and then we'll try it on the wrist. Now, though it does not have screw down pushers, it does have a screw down crown. Screw it out, pop it out to the first position, and you can change that date. You can see right there, it's going along, a good angle on it. Right there, the date changes just like that along the outside. Pull it again, and here's the time change. Everything is smooth as it should. Let's just tick this up to the 12 o'clock. Let's see if it changes over. And it is slowly starting to change over. And then, boom, at the 12 o'clock, pops over. Everything works as it should. Everything screws in nicely, screws in tightly. And let's just go ahead and try this bad boy on the wrist and then do a Lume shot. Okay, and here is the watch on my 7 1/4 inch wrist. You see what I mean by it's not too bulky at all. The footprint is actually pretty small with that 47 millimeter lug to lug. Honestly, everything fits perfectly on the wrist. I'm extremely happy with the way this watch wears. It does have a little bit of heft to it, which is nice because I've worn like titanium watches, even the sapphire watch really doesn't have that heft to it. And sometimes I really like to feel that I have a watch on my wrist. Some people don't. I do. Everything just sort of lines up perfectly on this watch. Really love those chamfered polished edges right there. You can see right there on the lugs. Those things just like pop in the light. Everything is done really, really well on this watch. The only sad thing about this watch is I gotta send it back. I can't keep it, which is really a shame. This thing is a keeper. Let's try out the Lume. Now, I do all the Lume the same way, which means it is simply placed under the 60 watt studio light with a diffuser right here and a diffuser on the box light. So honestly, it may be 60 watt, but it really doesn't hold a lot of power, and every watch is done the exact same. So in no way is this a comparison to something like being outside in the sun, but let's just see just how good this Lume is by turning off the box light. Okay, and you can see that even under just something as simple as a 60 watt studio light, this thing just shines extremely bright. They use the right type of Lume, really happy with it. Now I have walked this in from outside in the sun, and this thing is literally like a flashlight on your wrist, and it lasts forever. Just look at how long it's lasted so far under just that minimal studio lighting for this review. Now, what do you guys think about the review? Do you like the watch? Do you hate the watch? Do you think it's worth the money? Leave a comment down below. Now, if you like videos like this, hit that subscribe button down below. Leave a comment on the content you guys would like to see on this channel. I know I was supposed to release the Vario Popeye. That's going to be released in 2 days. Do the initial unboxing, and then the in-depth review directly after that. Then I have a watch straps review. Then I have so many other videos coming up in the future. So make sure you guys are hitting that notification bell so you can be notified when I drop that next video. Until next time.